The greatest minds in the history of the world. St. Thomas Aquinas, let's just use him. Even if you walked into any secular university and took a philosophy class, they will start with St. Thomas Aquinas even still. He was such a brilliant mind, right? He believed everything. Everything that you're taught is founded on his philosophy, on his theology. But it's all broken down to those three things that we have to do. Know, love, and serve God. That's all St. Thomas Aquinas did. That's all he taught. And the greatest minds, you can go back 1,000 years and find people that are even smarter than the priests, and maybe the priests and teachers in this great school for 1,000 years, and millions of them who believed what you believe, who love who you love, who dedicated themselves to Our Lady and to the church, and who died for her, right? Right? That's what they did. So this, when you think about what you have, this pearl of great price that's been given to you, and you're just kids, I don't want you to take this too terribly seriously at the moment. But it would be great if something I said just triggered in you, inside of you, to make you realize the gift you've been given. And I used to hate when people said that to me when I was a kid. But now I see that it's true. It's true. That you've been given this little pass for whatever reason to sort of grow and form as young men and women in love with life and wanting to have fun and wanting to have a full life and maybe be a priest or a nun or get married and have children and do all those wonderful things in life. But at the same, first and foremost, to know that you're Christian, that you follow Christ, that you're a Catholic. And so then we get back to, when you think of that music that you can't get away from, that you hear all the time, when it's attacking everything that you believe in, and everything your priests believe in, and everything your teachers believe in, and everything your parents believe in, you have to ask yourself, what part does pop music, does MTV, does VH1, even does most of the country music, what part does it play in this role that that is mine to save my soul? How is it going to help me? How is it going to bring me closer to the goal? Can you imagine for 2 seconds, St. Tarcisius? Can you see St. Tarcisius with his MP3 player and walking down the streets of Rome? Can you imagine in 1,000,000 years? Can you imagine St. John Vianney, the great curé of ours? You've heard of him, right? Can you imagine him sitting with his feet up on his coffee table, clicking through, watching cable TV? Of course not. So what we have is we're surrounded, we're inundated, and we're so used to it now that you hardly even realize it. Everywhere. I went into a Target store. Do you have Targets out here? I went into a Target the other day. And I was looking for, it was my wife's birthday, and I forgot to get her a card, and I had like 20 minutes to get her a card. And I'm in the card section, and all of a sudden I'm aware of this horrible din. But it was really loud. It's what is going on? And I look over there, it's the electronics department, right? Where they have all the little video games, and there's these poor little guys, just all confused, and I'm watching them, they're going at it, doing this for hours and hours, and the unbelievably loud music, this rap beat going. This whole section of the store is, dedicated, as they all are now, to the electronics department. There's something that I think is very contradictory to this, to the cross, to the silence of the cross, to devotions, to the Mass, to religion, to family life, in just that in that section of a Target store. And here's this little old grandmother just walking by in front of the section of the store. She didn't even look up. I mean, if it had happened 50 years ago, she would have thought she was walking by some kind of an exorcism or something. I mean, it was the sound of hell, and she didn't even notice. And the same thing happened today on the airplane. And we're flying something called Frontier Airlines, which actually has chipmunks and foxes on the tail of the airplane, which is very unsettling. I don't know if you've ever seen Frontier Airline, very strange. But anyway, they actually say, thank you for flying with us, and Woody the chipmunk thanks you as well, or some crazy thing. It was on the tail of the plane. So anyway, every person on the airplane has their own personal TV now. Personal TV. If you go into a pub or a restaurant, and there's not just one TV anymore, there's 25 TVs, and they're all plasmas, and they're all 28 inches, and there's 10 shows going on at one time on one thing. We can't get used to this. Don't allow yourselves to get used to this as you grow up. This is not normal. You're young people trying to figure out, trying to ascertain your vocation, your calling, right? as you get older, as you graduate from high school. How are you going to hear the calling when you're surrounded by this din and the flashing lights and the electronics everywhere and the headphones and all of this craziness? Don't let yourself get used to it. It isn't normal. It is not normal. And again, in the airplane, everyone has their own TV. And one of the free channels showed the same video of one of these poor creatures doing her thing, and as we're flying. It should be on a front that you pay all of this money to fly in an airplane, and then your senses are violated and assaulted by what would have been considered pornography 50 years ago. But the point of the story is, this lady sits down a few seats from us. First thing she said is, "Oh my," when she sees this video going. "Oh my, it's gyrations," she says. And yeah, I agree, it's ridiculous. You have to find someplace else to look as you're trying to fly on the airplane. But half an hour into the flight, no, she wasn't saying anything. No one was commenting. Everyone was used to it. But there she was. The girl was still doing it all the way through the flight. Why? Why do they do this? At one point, this little thing comes up on the screen and says, if you'd like to take a cat nap, here's how you turn off your TV. So you actually just watch the screen pretty much now until you pass out. That's what they want you to do. Just keep looking at the screen. And all I could think is, you ever heard of George Orwell's 1984? That's all I could think of. Big Brother is all around. But guess what? He doesn't much care about me. I'm 40. He doesn't care. But what he wants is he wants you guys. He wants the future. And I think he's pretty desperate right now. I think they're pretty desperate to make this final great push for innocence in America, because they're really going for it now. They're trying to dictate what Catholic schools can teach as what is right and wrong, legally. They're trying to put laws in that would forbid your religion teacher to teach what the natural definition of family is, for example. So they want you. They want your soul. Now, I'm not here to scare you. I don't think anyone in this room, though, wants to end up like Justin Timberlake or Britney Spears. I just have a feeling that at the end of the day, that's not what you want to do with your lives. And I'll bet $100 I'm right on that. So when we're encouraged by our priests and by those who know our faith to take the courageous stand and to stand up for the faith, to be like Edmund Campion, to be like Father Michael Pro, to be like Thomas More, they're not asking us to do something that's going to end up leaving us unhappy. I mean, do you know the name of the executioner of Thomas More? Do you know what the name of the guys were that fired the 5 rounds into Father Michael Pro's chest as he stuck out his arms like this and said, "Viva Cristo Rey"? Do you know who the guys were that were doing the shooting? Who cut Edmund Campion open and pulled out his innards before they martyred him? Who are those people? Nobody knows. I don't know. You don't know. And yet 500 years later, we're still lighting vigil lights in front of these men, these great Catholics, who stood up, and what did they do? First and foremost, what did they do? They did something different. They fought against those who fought against Christ. Thomas More didn't want to be a martyr, did he? Edmund Campion didn't. He didn't climb up on London Bridge and say, "I am a Jesuit, I spit on you heretics." Did he? No. No, he didn't. He got smart. He got disguises, didn't he? Went around in priest holes, hiding and doing whatever he could to stay alive and to preserve the faith in an age when it was under attack. We read those books now and we think, wow, that's really great, you know? This is like the Scarlet Pimpernel or something, only it's totally Catholic, right? It's great stories, it's wonderful things. So when we're called by the church, when God gives us life in a time like this, there's a reason for it, right? We have to learn to take that challenge, not to look at it as dismal and depressing, but to say, wow, I have a chance. I have a chance to actually do something. I know in my case, I think to myself, it might get me to heaven if I have to be martyred. I don't know if I'm going to make it otherwise. Maybe if I'm martyred, I'll make it. There's this certain other side of the call to holiness, which is there's a challenge that's in a human sense is attractive if we're willing to listen. And the other side of the other option is Britney Spears. The option are those poor kids with the green hair and the piercings everywhere and things hanging here. I mean, these poor young people, they're to be pitied. I don't bring them up to make fun of them. They don't have anything to live for. They don't have anything to live for. So they poke holes in themselves and they dye their hair and They just try to do anything to prove to themselves they're alive. Do you want to end up like that?